Hello and welcome to the Merchandising Minute. I'm your host, Greg Wilson. This is our first episode, really an introduction. So in today's video, I'll be talking about why we created the show in the first place. I'll also be describing the processes and functional space we'll be covering and why. Then I'll spend a few minutes describing the things to consider when prioritizing where to invest first with time and resources as you begin to improve how you do things in each of these areas. I've played a number of roles in retail over my 25 plus years in the business, from buying, planning, and managing those activities to creating the systems and processes that are used in each of those areas. Throughout that time, I found it very difficult, if not impossible, to find the kind of targeted information that would really help me improve the results I'm getting in each of those roles. The sources I could find were often outdated or too generic, or there were theoretical academic philosophies that had never been tested in practice, often conceived by people who weren't even familiar with our industry. So I don't know about you, but I found that very frustrating. I had to learn through trial and error or by continuously interrogating my peers and others I'd find who had relevant and direct experience. The Merchandising Minute is intended to be a forum to share various dimensions of what I and some of my friends and colleagues have learned over many years, so others can start from a position of being armed with information that's current and relevant. While every topic may not cover an area that you need right now, I expect that many of them will. And I hope that you'll also share this series with other individuals throughout your organization so they can take whatever pieces might be useful to them. The audience we're targeting within retail is fairly broad. Whether you're a senior executive looking for the changes that'll give you an edge over competition and lead to results that shareholders will support, or whether you're in the trenches of execution looking for ways to get the most out of your day-to-day operations, or anywhere in between, really, we expect we'll have a variety of things that you can use within this series. The areas we'll be covering in the Merchandising Minute are those that have the most impact to the success or failure of merchandising processes. We'll discuss things you can do right away to improve now, as well as things to consider if you're contemplating investing in new technology to support these processes. To start defining the space, we dig into three of the questions that drive the core of retail merchandising. What products do I carry and what locations do I offer them in? Locations being either physical or virtual. How much do I need to source from my suppliers, and when does that happen? And how much do I put into each location, and when does that happen? Now, these questions are typically served with processes like assortment and range planning, order planning and warehouse replenishment, and allocation and store replenishment. Now, there are a variety of related processes that enable, enhance, or support these areas. Things like forecasting, both long and short term, clustering, grading, attribute management, pricing for regular promo and clearance activity, and of course managing and planning promotions. These will all be topics we cover over time. We'll look at taking subsets of these processes, deconstructing them, and looking at the information, procedures, and decision points that ultimately get them to reach their objective successfully. We'll do this for both brick and mortar locations as well as e-commerce, but since the complexity of managing stores is much higher, we'll spend more time addressing those challenges. Obviously, there are many topics within this space, and it'll take a while to hit them all, so we have to prioritize. Where do we start first? We'll choose the topics to cover based on two criteria. First, those we've seen which are underserved or misunderstood. Second, based on feedback we get through our website, email, and related communications from you. Our first few videos will be focused on topics surrounding allocation and replenishment. We've chosen this area for a few reasons. The first of these reasons is that allocation and replenishment technology generally hasn't undergone much significant change in the last 1 to 2 decades. In fact, this was considered cutting-edge technology when the foundation and processes of systems most retailers are using today were conceived. Now that means as retailers have evolved, the technology just hasn't kept up. Can you imagine even being given the choice of purchasing this phone when you go looking for a new one? I can't. Now that doesn't mean that you're out of luck. there are plenty of ways to improve the results within the constraints of traditional systems, and we'll discuss a few of those in each episode. The next reason that we'll start here is that many retail organizations' replenishment and particularly allocation processes are executed by junior level staff. As such, they often haven't been exposed to nuances in their business, and therefore they can't be expected to understand many of the areas that can have significant positive impact on the quality of their work. Exposing them to more things they can consider can have dramatic impact on the results they achieve. And then the final and possibly the most compelling reason we've decided to start here has to do with the simple math of how many decisions are being made in this process. To understand that better, let's have a look at the numbers. This is one of those areas where the focus is on retailers with multiple brick and mortar locations. The more locations you're managing and the more products you carry, the more complex this whole thing gets. Let's look at an example of a specialty store with 500 locations carrying, say, 20,000 active SKUs at any given time. 500 stores times 20,000 SKUs represents 10 million SKU store combinations. Now let's assume you're reallocating or replenishing weekly, as is common in the industry. And let's further assume that you have some product that's fashion or seasonal, lives only a few weeks or months, and other product that's basics that live for the better part of a season or a year. With those assumptions, you may execute on average around 10 allocations or replenishments per product over the course of a year. As few as 2 or 3 for some, as many as 26 or even 52 for others. 10 million SKU stores times an average of 10 allocations or replenishment points equals 100 million decisions being made. If you consider all of that data needing to be analyzed to do that consistently well, even assuming it's weekly data, it's your 10 million SKU stores times 52 weeks, which is over 500 million data points. Now, if you think about this, if you can consistently improve 10%, 5%, heck, even 1% of your decisions on a consistent basis, that's 1 million situations where something is in a better place, where it'll sell at full price versus markdown, or age less and consume less capital from your budget. Even if that only represents $2.50 per unit, that's $2.5 million of found profit annually. In my opinion, for this reason, replenishment and especially allocation in apparel, fashion, and seasonal merchandise is an area with more potential return for investment than most retailers ever consider. So that's why we're starting there. Next episode, we'll begin talking about what data returns the best results for allocation and replenishment. I hope you'll join us then. In the meantime, please let us know what your priorities are. What would you like us to discuss? Send a note to questions@merchandisingminute.com. Also, hit our website. It's nothing fancy, but you can check out our blog and get an RSS notification when new episodes are posted. Or you can join our email list for notifications. That's merchandisingminute.com. Or you can check out Merchandising Minute channel on YouTube. You'll be able to find and play all of our episodes from your computer right there. And finally, we're working on providing the show as a podcast. We'll be submitting it to iTunes if you're an Apple or iTunes user, and to Podcast Alley if you use other devices or aggregators. If it's not there yet, bear with us and check back in a little bit. This whole project is a work in progress, and we'll be ironing out kinks for a little while. Thanks for watching. See you when we dig in a bit deeper next time. Damn, these lights are bright.